This is the Waupaca County Board of Supervisors meeting.
Please take your seats.
Bob's getting a donut. Or coffee. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I guess we're all here. They're going to be here. Good morning, everyone. I will call this Waupaca County Board of Supervisors meeting to order, and it's Tuesday, October 29th, 2019. It is a little past 9 a.m., and we ask you to press the roll call buttons, please.
Roll call shows that 23 members are present, 3 are excused, and 1 is vacant.
And Clerk Lodewagon, have we legally fulfilled the open meeting statement?
We have, sir.
Thank you. Please stand for a moment of silent meditation, followed by the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, number 5, approve the agenda. I think Mr. Nygaard wants to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to move item 10A before item 9.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Supervisor Mark?
I second that motion.
Motion by Supervisor Mark, a second by Supervisor Mark. Any questions or discussion? Let's vote.
Last chance to vote. That motion carries 23-0.
Do we have to do another motion?
Approve the agenda.
Yeah, okay. Okay, now we have to approve the agenda as amended. Mr. Zog?
I'd move you approve the amended agenda.
There's a motion by Mr. Zog to approve the amended agenda. Supervisor Lair?
Second.
And a second. Do we have any questions or discussion regarding that? Seeing none, let's vote.
Last chance to vote. Amended agenda passes 23-0.
Okay, we have the minutes of October 15th, 2019. We'd like to approve of those. If there's a motion, we can start with that. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Supervisor Mark?
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
And there is a motion by Mr. Mark to approve those minutes. Mr. Johnley?
I second that motion.
And a second by Mr. Johnley. Any questions or discussion? Let's vote.
Last chance to vote. Those minutes pass 23-0.
Okay, this is something we do every 5 years, so let's see if we can do this right. We need a motion to open a public hearing on the Waupaca County 2020-2024 library plan. Supervisor Nygaard?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Nygaard for approval. Mr. Johnson?
Second.
And a second by Mr. Johnson.
And we have to vote.
Any questions or discussion? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. We are in our public hearing for the 2020-2024 library plan.
Bradley's not here, but somebody else.
Yes.
No, she,
Oh, Bradley, okay.
Come forth, Bradley. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, my name is Bradley Ships. I'm the director of the Outagamie Waupaca Library System. Thank you for letting me speak this morning, and I'm going to keep my comments really brief. Waupaca County has been funding libraries at 100% of the formula described in the 2015 through 2019 plan since 2014. The 2020 to 24 plan recommends continued funding at 100%. The key change proposed in the new plan is the addition of electronic circulation to the formula. The plan proposes phasing in this change over 5 years. In the current formula, physical circulation serves as a proxy to estimate use of library service by county residents. It does not include all use, like program attendance or PC and wireless use, but it's been considered a reasonable estimate based on very reliable data. Over the past several years, circulation of electronic materials such as ebooks and downloadable audiobooks has grown steadily to become a significant portion of total circulation. eCirc equaled 8% of physical circ in 2018 and is tracking at 9% in 2019. While physical circulation has been gradually decreasing, the demand for electronic content is higher than libraries can meet. Data from 2018 indicates that the proportion of usage of electronic materials by county patrons differs from the proportion of usage of physical materials by county patrons. Based on these data and trends, the committee concluded that including electronic circulation in the funding formula would produce a more accurate estimate of overall county usage. If we were to apply the new formula to the 2020 funding request, based on 2018 circulation data, the request would have been 1.6% higher than the request included in this year's budget. Recognizing that sudden increases are as disruptive to the county budget, just as sudden decreases are disruptive to library budgets, the committee proposed a 5-year phase-in of the new formula at 20% per year. Applying the 5-year phase-in, the 2020 request would be just 0.3% higher. Are there any questions about the proposed plan?
Pardon me?
Go out to see if there's anybody signed up for public input.
Oh, okay. She has to go check to see if anybody signed up for public comment. Do we have anybody out there at all for public comment? Input? Do we have anybody there out here for public input? Please come forth. Last time, do we have anyone that would like to speak publicly and have some input on this? Okay, I'd like to motion to close the public hearing. Supervisor Lair. So moved. There's a motion by Supervisor Lair for approval and Supervisor Sparings.
I'll second that motion.
And a second by Supervisor Sparings. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries to close the public hearing.
I would like a motion to approve or deny the Waupaca County 2020-2024 library plan. Mr. Zog?
I'd move to approve that plan.
There is a motion by Mr. Zog for approval of the plan. Supervisor Pullman?
I would second that motion.
And a second by Supervisor Pullman. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Last chance to vote. That plan carries 23-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Bradley, for being here and giving us your little spiel there. Thank you much. Okay, now we go down to the resolution number A that we're... Oh, we're actually going to do that?
We are. We are. Nice try.
Okay. Number 8, reading of the 2020 proposed budget. Finance Director Heidi Dombrowski.
Heidi would have been okay with it.
She had one foot out the door. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm here again. Get to see me a lot the next few county board meetings. So we're here to read the 2020 proposed budget. Since we met on October 15th, we have had some new developments with the budget, and you were provided with a memo via email and in your packet. I just want to go through those developments so that we all make sure we understand what has occurred. On October 18th, the county was successful in the sale of the nursing home facility, and as a result of the sale, the project to raise the nursing home facility in the capital improvement plan for 2020 was removed in the amount of $484,560, and therefore so was the usage of the unassigned fund balance. In addition, we were able to remove $64,247 of property tax levy to fund the maintenance of the facility itself. The sale proceeds, one-time revenue that we'll be receiving in 2019 from the sale of the facility and any additional facility contents, those will be set aside for future capital purchases. $260,000 of property tax funding was also removed from the 2020 proposed budget. This was for the purpose to fund the tower microwave project upgrade in 2021 without the usage of unassigned fund balance in 2020 and additional fund balances and capital purchases for future capital purchases. We anticipate that this project will be funded in 2021 without the levy in 2020. Through all that, we were able to reduce the levy by $324,247. And with that, we reallocated those funds to, first of all, $65,000 of it was reallocated to public property program, and this is to continue courthouse security enhancements throughout the courthouse. Additionally, $87,000, almost $88,000 was reallocated to the corrections program, and that will fund additional mental health contract hours in the amount of $57,345, and then $30,624 for a second registered nurse in that area. Additionally, $125,000 was reallocated to the Sheriff Administration Program, and this is really to offset the delay of the start date on the new positions as described in Resolution 20 later on the agenda. Lastly, $37,244 was reallocated over to the Transportation Services Fund, and then we offset a decrease to the sales tax allocation for highway construction projects in the Transportation Services Fund. Additionally, interest earnings on the highway facility bonds and the bond premium are estimated to exceed the project budget by $231,873. That project is starting to wind down, and we believe that project will be able to remain within budget. So these excess interest earnings are able to be applied against the highway facility bond payment. And in addition to that, the $37,244 of sales tax that we took from Transportation Services Fund has now been applied to the debt service fund for a total reduction to the debt levy from the October 15th presentation of $269,117. Overall, with all those adjustments, the net levy impact, the net levy is $28,392,468. It's $148,848 increase, or 0.53%. The tax rate of 6.7030, a decrease of 16 cents, or 2.33%. An analysis of the county levy limits. The 2019 payable 2020 allowable levy increased $283,468, or 1.21%. Adjustments for debt service is actually decreasing $126,945. And other levy adjustments decreased by $7,675. The budget is within the levy limits of the law of the levy limits. Under the Wisconsin statutes, the county is allowed a total debt service adjustment for the total principal and interest payments within the budget. Under the law, the county has about $570,000 of unused capacity, and that's for the sales tax that we've applied to the debt service payment. Excuse me. The Waupaca, the equalized value reduced by TID value increment actually increased by $120,776,500, or 2.94%. And like I mentioned earlier, the tax rate of 6.7030 is about 16 cent decrease, or 2.33%. And there's a summary of the effects by the total of town, villages, and cities. Again, with the taxpayer impact, the U.S. Census Bureau says the market value of a home is about $142,300. In 2020, a taxpayer with that value of a home would pay $953.84 as compared to $976.69 in 2019. That would mean that taxpayer would pay $22.85 less in 2020 than they did in 2019. We did have some other additional resources. We kind of talked about this last time, but just to recap, sales tax is estimated at $4 million, and it's projected to increase about $155,805. We've allocated approximately $570,000 to debt service to be applied towards the debt service payment. And the remaining $3.4 million has been allocated to the Transportation Services Fund to be applied towards highway construction projects. Health and Human Services Fund's base allocation for the Department of Children and Families increased $259,000, offset with a reduction to youth aids of about $28,666. Due to that increase, the Department of Health and Human Services is utilizing this allocation to offset any anticipated levy increase in that fund. General transportation aids, we received an additional $204,031, and that increase in revenue has a direct impact in routine maintenance increase of an expense, a direct increase in routine maintenance for that same amount. The 2020 budget has requests for approximately, 4 new positions and an expansion, a half FTE full volunteer coordinator expansion. And we're funding a new program, the Greenway Project, for $25,000. Personal services adjustment, the 2020 budget includes a one-step advancement for those employees who are eligible for a step advancement in accordance with the Personnel Policies and Procedure Manual. It also recommends a 2% market adjustment to the step structure. And we also recommend a 7% decrease to our health insurance premiums. Overall, you can see the net impact by fund for each of those adjustments. This is a correction from October 15th, so I found that my numbers were fairly inaccurate on the October 15th, and especially in the Health and Human Services Fund. It was a total number there versus just that fund. So this is a corrected worksheet from the October 15th presentation. The general fund is actually experiencing the largest impact to property tax. We've discussed most of them in previous slides, but the overall increase is $767,746, or 4.68%. $15,952 is in special charges. The operating impact for personal services for the new position and other personal services for $546,904. And then we have those adjustments in the contracted services area for a total of $178,896. And then the Greenway project for $25,000. Now this doesn't totally, these are the bigger impacts. Obviously you see my numbers don't total to the same. There's fluctuations between other programs here and there that were minimal, but these were the main changes within the budget in the general fund. The general fund balances we anticipate are going to increase or decrease by $41,000. The jail assessment fees that are collected in the clerk of courts area, those are restricted funds for $57,500, so that's an increase. We're utilizing $61,200 of land records restricted funds for the ortho imagery project in the capital improvement plan. There's assigned fund balances for the elections area that was a 2019 restoration of $35,515, and the Veteran Service Department is requesting a $2,100 non-lapsing appropriation from 2019 to 2020. There's no allocation of general fund unassigned balance in the 2020 proposed budget. The transportation services operating impact is a decrease in property tax of $253,735. The general transportation aids increased by that $204,000. The offsetting operating expenses increased by $304,000. That was a $100,000 increase impact. However, in 2019 budget, we restored $353,758 to that fund balance based upon winter experience in 2018 and utilizing that fund to pay for capital purchases. So that is why you're seeing a negative impact on property tax in this area. This is for operating. This isn't for capital in the Transportation Services Fund. Health and Human Services Fund is requesting no levy impact for 2019. As we talked about, they're receiving additional funding resources of $273,471. And they're increasing the CCS stabilization services of $750,000, which is also offset with an increase in the CCS program fees. So their net impact is zero on the levy. The capital improvement plan levy impact, the capital improvement fund decreased $205,084. We're actually increasing the amount of capital projects by $14,250. The 2019 budget also restored $164,000 in fund balance, and due to not utilizing and having a strong general fund balance, we don't feel it's necessary to restore anything to offset project overages in 2020. So that is where the biggest impact is no longer restoring that fund balance in 2020. The Transportation Services Fund capital plan. The Transportation Services levy for capital projects increased $23,418. The projects themselves increased $480,856 from the 2019 adopted budget. Sales tax applied increased $797,471, while the LRIP funding, there is no LRIP funding for these projects in 2020, so that's a decrease of $340,000 for that impact. Total capital improvement plan is a decrease to levy of $181,666. Debt service. The total debt levy decreased by $183,477. Debt service payments were reduced by $1,061,222. We had the excess interest earnings that were applied to the 2020 highway facility bonds. In addition, the bond premium applied to the 2020 budget is $396,498, which is a reduction of $467,952 from the 2019 budget. And sales tax applied for the 2020 budget is $569,594. On May 1st of 2019, the 2009 series notes were paid in full. On March 1st, 2020, the 2010 series notes will also be paid in full. The only ones remaining then will be the 2014 series notes and the 2014 series notes and the 2018 highway facility bonds will be the two remaining outstanding debt services we have. At the close of 2019, the county's overall general obligation debt outstanding will be $32,500,000. As we talked at the last meeting, we do have a targeted maximum of 1.25% of direct debt burden as a percent of equalized value and $575 for direct debt burden per capita. The county's current outstanding debt of $32.5 million is 0.75% of the county's total equalized value. And our debt per capita is $621. As I mentioned last meeting, after the principal payments are made in 2020, we'll be meeting that targeted debt per capita at that time. In addition, the 2020 debt service payment is 7.31% of the total operating and debt service expenditures. The county's target is 9%. The tax rate target is $1.50. The 2020 budget tax rate for debt service is 87 cents. I would just want to take a few slides to kind of regroup a little bit about the foresight of this board. Back in 2017, as we were doing the 2018 budget, your commitment to that process and patience, to be quite honest, where we quit borrowing for our annual capital improvement plan. And I think that the 2020 budget is really a good time to take a step back and say, well, this is the result of that process. So I just kind of want to go through some of what has happened. In 2017, the total general obligation debt service payment was $6.1 million. $3.5 million of that was being funded with sales tax ultimately, and $792,000 was funded with the operating levy, and the remaining $1.8 million with debt levy adjustment. The county's total general obligation debt service payment for 2020 is $4.2 million, with $569,000 funded with sales tax and the remaining $3.7 with debt levy adjustment. Since 2017, the county's general obligation debt service annual payment has decreased $1.8 million. What this graph shows you, back in 2011, our debt service payment was $5.4 million. This yellow, that's how much we were applying against our debt adjustment. The remaining, about half of our payment was being applied to our operating levy capacity. In 2017, we hit a debt service payment of $6.1 million. As the debt service payment went up, we had to apply more to our debt adjustment. As sales tax increased, we were applying more sales tax. And at the end, we had a little bit of operating capacity still in our debt service. In 2018, our budget was $5.5 million, or $5,465,770. That's when we paid off that one series, the 2011 series. And so we utilize fund balance, but you can see as our debt service drops, our debt adjustment has increased a little bit in 19, stayed fairly stable in 2020, but we're applying less sales tax in 2020 to the debt service. Our capital purchases, prior to 2018, we were funding approximately, or an average of 4.5 million on the county's capital improvements with bond proceeds. And the annual average of capital improvement expenditures were about 6 million. Since 2017, the average funding for capital improvements is 6.7 million. So we're about $700,000 ahead of what we were when we were actually borrowing for those projects. As the debt service payment decreases, the amount of sales tax and operating levy applied to capital projects increases. This graph shows you the purple line is the annual average. You can see that the capital kind of fluctuates as you move along, but ultimately the orange is what was funded with bond proceeds. So you can see starting in 2018, we had no bond proceeds applied to our capital improvement plan. Sales tax collection history. Sales tax collection is really based on the county's economic condition. And you can see that as you look at it, you can see how much of our sales tax was applied to debt service. Then in 2018, we started applying more sales tax to our capital and less to debt service. And now in 2020, we have a very minimal amount of sales tax applied to the actual debt service, but more to capital, because we're not borrowing for those capital projects anymore. The county is legally obligated to fund the annual debt service payment. Doesn't matter what the county's economic condition is. However, the capital improvement plan can be adjusted based on the county's economic conditions and fluctuations in sales tax collection. So ultimately, if the sales tax tends to take a dive because of economic conditions, we're able to adjust the capital plan. If we're applying sales tax to debt service, that's a direct impact to property tax because we have to pay it whether we're having the sales tax revenue or not. The operating capacity on an average has increased $284,395. That's the gray line. You can see that it does not move much at all. The orange line is the debt service and how much of the debt service we are applying to the operating capacity. Since 2017, the county has not applied any debt service payment to the operating capacity. With no debt service applied to the operating capacity, more resources are available to fund operating and capital expenditures. And that's kind of shown here. Back here, we weren't able to apply our full operating capacity. And as it increases, we're able to fund capital and more operating expenditures under the capacity with not a lot of impact to the taxpayer because our debt service is decreasing. All these adjustments, the 2020 annual proposed budget has been posted to the website. If you go to the latest news under the county homepage, there's a direct link over to our page which shows the capital, the 2020 to 2024 capital improvement plan, along with the 2020 proposed annual budget. So there is a printed copy in the county clerk's area as well that can be viewed. And just as a reminder, any questions that you may not get answered today, my contact information along with other department heads and committee of jurisdiction contact was provided to you in memo last meeting. And really that's what I have today. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the proposed budget?
Mr. Morick?
Are these slides out on the website?
I can have Jill post them under the more section.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Supervisor Vasquez?
I'd like to just say thanks to Heidi. Another good presentation. It's a shout out to the department heads also, but as hard as they work, I think Heidi, with her vision and guidance, has really brought this budget under control. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Discussion? Going once, going twice? I guess not. Thank you very much, Heidi. Great job.
Thank you.
Oh, we're not going to do it now. I know. Here we go. Now we're down to the 10A, resolution that we put up under A. So resolution number 17, 2019-20, amend chapter 45 comp plan map. Mr. Brown is on his way up.
Morning.
Morning, Ryan.
So this comp plan amendment is really twofold. We're doing two things at once. The first one we have on the screen right now is in the town of Waupaca. This is, we're taking this property here that you can see that's in the middle of a subdivision that's currently zoned and planned residential. And they're looking at changing that designation to AWT to allow for an auto repair business. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The second part of this resolution is also adopting the new generalized map from the town of Helvetia. So this is basically akin to all the other generalized preferred land use maps that we've been adopting countywide. The big difference between these maps and the maps that were originally adopted back when the comp plan was first gone through its first iteration back in the 07-09 era was that we're using planning districts instead of zoning districts. So what we're doing is that we're retaining local control, but yet at the same time we're increasing flexibility and people understand what they're looking at. So it's been very well received throughout the towns, and the town of Helvetia is adopting this one, moving forward with this one.
Done. Okay, do we need a motion? We need a motion for approval, please. Supervisor Questman?
I'll move.
Motion by Supervisor Questman for approval. Supervisor Nygaard?
Second.
Second by Supervisor James Nygaard. Questions or discussion? Let's vote.
Supervisor Newman, is your voting working? Thank you. Last chance to vote. That carries 23-0.
Yep. Okay, now we're back up under the ordinance and amendments to the General Code of Ordinances. It'd be 9A 2019-682, amendment to Chapter 34, petition number Z-016-19, Town of Muckwa, Brian J. O'Toole, for a zoning map amendment from RR District to a AWT District.
So this is just a companion action to the first action that we had just taken here. So we just adopted the change to the comp plan to take this to agriculture, which allows for the rezone to AWT, or Ag Woodland Transition.
We'd like to have a motion for approval, please. Supervisor Fleece.
I'll make that motion.
It's a motion by Supervisor Fleece for approval. Supervisor Gerald Murphy.
I second that motion.
And there's a second by Supervisor Gerald Murphy. Questions? Discussion? Let's vote.
Last chance to vote. That carries 23-0.
Nine B 2019-683, amendment to Chapter 34, Petition number Z-017-19, Town of Matson, Jason J. and Jesse J. Krieger for a zoning map amendment from an AR district to a RR-O district.
So the Kriegers are looking at settling out their estate, and part of that process is they want to create a lot that goes around their existing structures. You'll see that this is going to roll residential overlay, which is our residential district inside farm preservation. One thing you'll notice in here that it's actually 3.69 acres, I believe, which is kind of an odd number. The inside farm preservation, one of the rules we have is 1 development right equals 2 acres of non-farm. They decided not to go with 4 acres. They went less with that because they wanted to keep these the most amount of cropland outside of the homestead parcel. So that's why you see it being 3.69 acres. They did use 2 development rights in creating this lot.
Supervisor Nygaard?
Move to approve.
There's a motion by Supervisor Nygaard for approval. Mr. Quisman?
I'll second that motion.
And a question, second by Mr. Quisman. Questions? Discussion? Let's vote.
Last chance to vote. That carries 23-0.
Thank you, Ryan. C is amend Chapter 2 rules of the governing body, Section 12.4, 12.4A, Appendix A, items 8 and 9.
Well, as I try to pull this up for you, I'm just going to let you know that this will be 4 separate votes. We split it down in the executive to make it a little bit easier to understand. It does, because our rules of the body can only be changed by majority vote at our April meeting. This will require 2/3 vote of the members present. So the first vote that you are looking at is to change Rule 12.4 and Appendix A, Item 8, which is a repeat of the, and what you're changing, you're looking at changing the per diem cost to from $60 to $70 per meeting for meetings under 4 hours, and it remains the same for that additional $30 for anything over the 4 hours. So that's what the first vote is, as you can see here.
Okay, we are looking for a motion for approval, please. Supervisor Ellis.
Let's get a raise.
There's a motion by Supervisor Ellis. Do we have a second? Supervisor Jonley.
I second that motion.
And a second by Supervisor Jonley. Questions or discussion? I will just make a comment that I know there was some study done and over many other counties and other meetings we go to, we've been low for some time. Shauna's been way ahead of us for years, and so we decided that maybe we should get a bump in the committee recommended. So please vote.
Last chance to vote. That motion carries 22-1. The next part of this is for the salary, and let me get to that for you. Sorry, lots of screens open. Okay, so the county board chairman's salary is currently at $13,000. The motion would be to change it to $13,250 for the first term starting in April of 2020, and $13,500 for the second year for this term starting April of 2021.
Supervisor Terry Murphy.
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion by Supervisor Terry Murphy for approval. Supervisor Gerald Murphy.
I second that motion.
Second by Supervisor Gerald Murphy. Questions or discussion? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. That motion carries 22 and 1 abstain. The next is for the vice chair. That salary is currently at $1,000. It's changing to $1,100 for the first year of the term starting April of 2020, and $1,200 for the second year of the term starting April of 2021 is what was recommended.
Supervisor Zog?
I would move that that be approved.
There's a motion by Supervisor Zog for approval. Supervisor Johnson?
Second.
And a second by Supervisor Johnson. Any discussion? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. That motion carries 22-0 with 1 abstain. And the last, excuse me as I get back to it. Conferences, seminars, conventions are authorized. County functions shall be paid mileage, and it's changing from $60 to $70 per day, or if 4 hours, changing from $75 to $100 for a full day. And then the executive committee had added the line, total hours does not include time, travel time to and from function.
Supervisor Fleece?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion by Supervisor Fleece for approval. Supervisor Pullman?
I'll second that motion.
And a second by Supervisor Pullman. Discussion, questions? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. That motion carries 23-0. Resolution 18.
Okay, we're on Resolution 10B, Resolution 18, 2019-20, Cooperation Agreement for Community Development Block Grant Program.
Now therefore, pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 66.0301, Waupaca County and the Central Wisconsin Housing Region agree to cooperate in the submission of applications for such funds and agrees to cooperate in the implementation of the submitted CDBG program as applied by the Department of Administration. Nothing contained in this agreement shall deprive any municipality of any powers or zoning, development, control, or other lawful authority which it is presently presents. Sorry, didn't want to come out.
Supervisor Johnson?
I move to approve.
There's a motion by Supervisor Johnson for approval and Supervisor Spearings,
I'll second that motion.
and a second by Supervisor Jack Spearings. Questions? Any comments, discussion? Let's vote.
Terry, do you want to? Last chance to vote? That carries 23-0.
Resolution number 21.
19. We want this donation. We want this.
Excuse me. Resolution number 19, 2019-20, donation acceptance.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Waupaca County Department of Health and Human Service Board and the Waupaca County Board of Supervisors accepts the donation to support the nutrition needs of our elderly citizens in Manawa area in the amount of $6,000 from Gusmer Enterprises Incorporated.
Supervisor Lair?
Yeah, I so move.
There's a motion by Supervisor Lair for approval. Supervisor Golding?
I second it.
And a second by Supervisor Golding. Any discussion?
Jerry. Oh, he must.
Gerald Murphy?
That was the second. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Please vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 23-0.
Resolution 21. Try it again. 2019-20, 2020-2024 Capital Improvement Plan.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Waupaca County Board of Supervisors hereby approves the 2020 to 2024 Capital Improvement Plan as a guide for future planning.
Supervisor Zog.
I move that be approved.
There is a motion by Supervisor Zog for approval. Supervisor Vasquez,
I'll second that.
and a second by Supervisor Vasquez. Is there any questions? Let's vote.
Last chance to vote. Motion carries 23-0.
Resolution number 22, 2019-20, staffing new positions in 2020.
Now therefore, let it be resolved that the Waupaca County Board of Supervisors does hereby approve the new positions for 2020 as listed above.
Supervisor Vasquez.
I'll make that motion to approve.
There's a motion by Supervisor Vasquez for approval. Supervisor Jonley,
I'll second that motion.
and a second by Supervisor Jonley. Any questions? Then let's vote.
Last chance to vote. That motion carries 23-0.
Resolution number 23, it's 2019-20, a 2020 wage salary increase.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Waupaca County Board of Supervisors does hereby authorize an annual compensation increase of 2% effective 1/1 of 2020 for wage salaries of employees paid in accordance with the Waupaca County wage schedule.
Do we have a motion? Supervisor Nygaard.
I'll move to approve.
So motion by Supervisor James Nygaard for approval. Supervisor Pullman.
I would second that motion.
The motion by Supervisor Pullman, a second by Supervisor Pullman. Is there any discussion or comments? Let's vote.
Last chance to vote. That motion carries 23-0.
Do we need a break? We'll take a short break. Okay, we will continue on. The next thing we would like to hear from is Sheriff Wills. He's got a very special presentation.
I'll put these on first now. Everybody full of donuts. Morning.
Good morning.
Chair, rest of the county board. Everybody having a great morning?
Bad.
I'm glad you're all here because we had some a majority of accidents this morning, so thanks for driving safe. There's something to tighten this with.
You didn't break it.
Take it out of my budget.
Yeah.
Okay, today we're going to honor Deputy Gorshals for his heroic acts. This is going to be the same as what Detective Sergeant Traeger had just a few meetings ago. So it's going to sound familiar, but with Pat into the system here. So it's a shooting complaint that happened March 17th, 2019 in the town of Lynn, Beg Hills Road. Summary is, on March 17th, 2019, Waupaca County Communications Center received the report of gunshots fired at the address of E 4020 Bags Hill Road. The Communications Center also advised there's one individual injured with a foot injury from a gunshot wound. The injured subject would not leave the residence because he was bleeding. Deputy Pat Korschels was one of the officers who responded to the call, as well as Sergeant Detective Nick Traeger. Detective Nick Traeger noticed the subject waving his arms to get his attention. While Detective Sergeant Traeger instructed the injured party to come to his squad, Deputy Patrick Korschels had taken cover next to a building to provide protection for Detective Sergeant Traeger. While the injured victim was able to make his way to Detective Sergeant Traeger. Sounds redundant, but information was provided to Deputy Pat Korschels and other deputies that would be arriving that this may be a hostage situation. Deputy Pat Korschels held the perimeter, providing additional protection to other responding officers. Officers were able to take the suspect into custody without any further injury. Quick thinking and tactical actions of Deputy Pat Korschels prevented any further injury or loss of life. Thank you. Additionally, I would say, as all officers, Pat Korschels took the oath to protect and serve. But I personally would like to thank Deputy Korschels for his commitment and dedication to us, Waupaca County Sheriff's Office, and the citizens of Waupaca County. Thanks, Pat. Could I add something? Additionally, just a little note, we're having a Stop the Bleed down in LL42 at 10:30, 12:30, and 2 o'clock. It's a pretty good program put on by Homeland Security and Andy Carlin, Emergency Management. He wanted me to mention that, if that's okay.
Thank you. Can't do it, but you already did. Thank you and congratulations, and thank everybody on your department for the great job you do, every one of you. Mr. Beiersdorf is going to take the stand here.
Very good. So we give our monthly presentation on the new highway facility project progress, and I'm pretty proud to say that this is probably our last presentation on the monthly project progress. Our crews have been overwhelmingly joyful and thankful that the county board, the residents, our department, Myron, has created an awesome facility for them to work out of, not only currently, but into the future. It's come together real well in the last couple months. So on behalf of the department, I'd like to thank the county board for their patience with us through this process and allowing us to do it. It's a huge accomplishment for Waupaca County. The project overall is winding down with the final touching finishes that you can imagine. So I brought Paul here, who is a representative of Myron. You've seen him up here multiple times. But he's going to kind of touch base on where we are to finish the project. I'm going to go through the project progress report and just generally discuss some of the pictures. I know the pictures are worth 1,000 words. So with that, I've got the American flag that went on the east side of the building. That this photo doesn't have the lights that have been recently added to the top of it, but it will be illuminated at night. So it's a huge patriotic, government-related thing that when you come around the curve on Highway A, if anyone says it's the building with the big flag on it, you aren't going to miss it. So that's that photo. Inside of this break room, we've held multiple meetings. I think we've had 4 or 5 meetings in this break room where all of the tables, all of the chairs, right up to where the person taking the picture was packed. We can fit about 85, 90 people in this part of our facility. And we've used it multiple times. The Towns Association meeting was held there. We had more turnout than we've ever had before, not only in Waupaca, but also up at our Larrabee meeting. So for those that may have attended that, you'd have seen that it was full house for the evening meeting. The next photo is it's been updated since. The striping's been placed on the floors. We actually have a few trucks that are parked in this part of the facility. It's one of the last sections to get finalized. And then the landscaping crews working with a wet fall have had their endeavors with mud. So it's been nonstop with all of the rain we've been getting even into this fall with getting the seating down, but it's completed. The landscaping blocks and planters just got placed below the United States flag, so that when you come around and you see the big flag, there's planter boxes underneath it. That's a change in the work, but there's a lot of requirements. Some of them came from the city of Waupaca. You got to be aesthetically pleasing with planter boxes. You've got to have things that meet their codes, and so we're compliant with all of that. This bottom photo is just a picture of the maintenance bays, and another photo of inside the big warehouse. Again, it's not been parked full of trucks yet. Our locker rooms have finished. We've got employees that now have a place to hang their jacket in a locker room, whereas before they hung it in the tire room. And then our mechanics are especially happy this winter in that they have in-floor heating in this concrete slab, so they are working in a warm environment. They aren't crawling under and around and through trucks with their winter jackets on all day at work, so it's a huge change. Plus, they've got lights where they can see stuff, eliminating the trip hazards and all the treble cords that we once had. Our shop foreman, Greg, he's busy at work in that photo, but he's able to see all of his mechanics out in the shop, and then he turns his back and he's got the shipping parts and receiving guy. So mechanic comes in, says, this is broke, this is what I need. The foreman verifies, yep, that's what we want. The workflow right to his shipping and parts guy, as before, but a lot more, it flows better. It's all right at the tips of his fingers. Our cold storage facility, or I call it unheated building, is it's packed. It's full. I can say that there's a lot of things that still need to be picked off of the floor and put on the racking systems, but that's part of moving. There's the inside of it. You can see that some of the racking on the right has been installed, and there's a lot of stuff on the floor to the left in that photo. Some of that stuff's going to go up on racking, and that's where a lot of our construction equipment and graders and stuff that we were storing outside will all be inside. So throughout the winter, when our mechanic needs to gets that piece of construction equipment as a work order, something needs to get fixed on it, he's not digging it out of the snow a day ahead of time. He's taking it out of the building to start working on it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Paul, because he's got probably more than I've got.
Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me, and again, allowing Myron to work with you and put this together. This picture, we had a drone come out there just this last Friday, so these are very recent pictures. This is from that southeast corner, as you said, from County A looking at. This was the rendering that we had on the front page of the report that we did every month. So the real picture looks very much like the rendering, so that's always the goal, is make our motto is building dreams and making dreams come true. So that's turned out pretty nice. As you can see, this is a picture of the flag on there. There's the 3 planters. The office area is to your left. The big overhead doors were activated yesterday. They have push buttons. They also have photo eyes. So as you come up, that's the exit door that we coming in from the west and coming out on the east. So the big overhead door you see there is 18 feet wide, 16 feet tall, so that your trucks with the plows on will all fit through those doors. And you see the 3 planters that Casey was referring to. The lad is on here in the picture over the top of the flag. The 3 planters now have plantings in them, and that was required by the city of Waupaca. You have to have so many trees, and I think they even do a count of how many trees per acres that you have to have in a facility, and we met all those codes. This is an aerial view from that southeast corner. Again, higher to the bottom left corner. You can see the fueling station. The fueling station is both diesel and unleaded gas. We've got a loading ramp for backing up the semis and tractor trailers too. We've got the cold storage in the background. There's a retention pond here that's got an aerator to discourage the geese and ducks from landing on it. You can see the corner, this is the sand shed with, it's like an 18-foot overhead door again, so you can bring a truck in, dump it, and actually pull out the door with the dump box up. And then over on the right side is the county salt shed, which is even a bigger door because they buy a bigger truckload of salt at a time for that one. That's like almost like a semi-trailer that comes in there, backs up and dumps it with like a 28-foot door. Specially made with a special coating on the outside so that the salt doesn't interact with that. And the space in the middle is waiting for the state of Wisconsin to do that, and Casey can enlighten you when that's going to happen. Yeah, as you can see, we've got was one of the wetland areas. There's another one up here next to the county salt, and then the grass is seeded. We've got landscaping here on the south side on the berm to help shade some of the lights coming off the fuel island so it doesn't hit the neighbor across the street so much. Next slide. And this is the picture we've been taking pretty much all the time from the very south fuel island. These are storage bins, which are the concrete blocks. So he's got tires and gravel and stone chips in these to allow access to that all the time. This is a paved area. This was originally going to be just gravel, but the project came in nicely under budget, so we were able to pave that as well. Actually, the county paved that with their forces, so that worked out really nice. And they are parking stuff there. You can see the concrete driveways between the main repair buildings, the parking building, and the cold storage, so that these are always stable concrete structures, 8-inch slabs, just like all the floors in the county roads. Then the next one should be one more.
That was the last one.
Okay. So as you can see on the big curve, when you come around on County A, the main road was redone. We put in some grade cuts in here to get it down so that we didn't have a visual impact where a truck driver would come out from there and not be able to see over the hill, so that grade was lowered to increase visibility. There are street lights that are through We Energies on the south driveway and on the north driveway. The temporary driveway in the middle is gone, and all the grass seed is planted along here. On the north, it actually started to take already here on the north, and the south is all seeded as well. So again, thank you very much. Dedication, Casey,
Yep.
you want to say a little on that?
So next week is the ribbon cutting dedication ceremony. You should have all gotten invites through email. They're called Evites. It'll be Thursday, November 7th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then we're also going to have an open house November 9th on Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. There'll be stuff to eat there if you bring your appetite. I think we're having sub sandwiches all pre-made and so forth. So with that, any questions?
I just got a comment. I imagine in years to come and not too distant that there will be other counties considering building, and they'll be up here taking a gander at the facility that you helped us build. Don't you think?
Indeed there will, yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Spearings.
Joyce?
Casey, I got a question on the truck wash.
Jack, if you want to hold a second, please. Okay. Dick has to I got Casey.
Okay.
Joyce has requested to speak first.
Sorry.
I just wanted to thank Casey for keeping us informed every step of the way. Did a great job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Spearings?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Casey, my question is, which I really think is a good idea, that truck wash, but I got guys asking me, are they going to be able to drive this winter the trucks like off Highway 10 with double wing? Can they still go through that truck wash?
The double wing trucks will not fit through that truck wash without conflicting. The tips of the wings aren't wide, it's too wide. There's 2 trucks that we have currently that are going to have to be done with by hand.
Okay, that was just a question.
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
Okay.
They will fit in the manual wash bay, which is right next door.
Yeah,
with manual ones.
that was kind of the question I had going.
Every
So
other truck in your fleet will fit through that.
And so they fit into the big garage doors, and they can get the underbody flush in the automatic one, but they can't sit where the machine goes alongside of it. So they can get the underbody flush, but they'll have to go in the other bay to get the manual wash.
all right, thanks. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Anyone else? I just want to second. I want to second Joyce Boyer's comment. From day one, we wanted to keep it transparent. And I want to thank you again, like she said, Casey, and your crew, your board, for making it transparent every month, pretty much. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're down to my county board chair report. I don't have anything, but I do know that there were a few members that went to the WCA convention, that maybe there's someone that'd like to get up and speak about what they learned or what they thought about the conference. Who is there? Fred? You were there. Why don't you come forth and tell us what you know?
I didn't put the counter on, Fred.
Well, I think this is probably the 7th time I've been there, and I think what I did this time more than the past was talk to some of the people that you might learn something from, people who have been around a little longer than you. Sunday afternoon when they had the annual meeting, I sat out in the hall at a table with Gus Worth, who's been around even longer than Dick, and we were going over all the resolutions. Like there were 52 resolutions in 72 counties, and Dennis and I had to go through all those resolutions at our joint legislative meeting that we have at Moseley Airport every quarter. So second or third time we've seen them, but we spent probably an hour together talking about things in general and whatever, and then also the county chair of Washburn County. I talk to him every time I'm there. And an old friend of mine, Dave Anderson, is with the UW Extension now. Senior Policy Fellow, Wisconsin Institute for Public Policy and Service. And they offer things, I guess, for municipalities and counties as well. The sessions, there was two duplications from last time, from a year ago. I think it was the opioids and how to be your duties as a supervisor. One that I went to is what's new in juvenile corrections. And what they're doing across the state offered a 95% reimbursement if counties would build facilities. The only catch is to the ongoing operational expenses would be borne by the county, no more state money. And so I believe they mentioned Dane, Milwaukee, Brown, and Racine were the only counties that took advantage of that. There was still a big short of funds by way of the Joint Finance Committee on that. There was not much mention of what we're expecting to have happen outside of New London with the town of Hortonia. As far as what we know so far, I think that's still going to go forward sometime in the next few years. The other section, what's new with the DOT? the person they had sounded like he was fresh out of school and was an assistant to the assistant to the vice assistant. Talked about some transportation task force and that they had some bridge program supposedly cover 90% of the cost. Casey, I don't know if you're aware of that or if it's past tense or what, but what they did is did bridge strengthening around smaller town areas and so forth. And what they say, the fee increases they expect to get from the registration increases. What do we have to pay now? $165 for a title. Supposedly he's going to generate $390 million in the new budget, and that bridge thing was like a $75 million one-time shot. Another interesting point I found was they mentioned that the brine mix versus salt. We've heard a lot about that, but their comment there was that the brine mix deteriorates the road surface and it makes potholes. So I don't know if that's something we're going to be using or not, but that was their main comment there. And I did step in the opioid and meth session, but again, it was pretty similar to what's going on in the past, and making a little progress statewide, but it's going to be a long process to tackle that and put an end to it. So
thank you.
That was it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Vice Chair, he's got a few comments.
Quite a few. I have a captive audience, and I like to have a captive audience. I was a school principal. You have to stay there. You can't get up and leave. Very interesting. I think a couple things that I attended that scared me the most. One is what's going on in the drug scene, opioids. Marathon County doubled their caseload last year. And when you think about that, it just doesn't involve Health and Human Services. It involves the Sheriff's Department. It involves so many people in between. And when you look at that in depth, they're saying that we should have caseworkers 1 to 15, and I know we're way over that. But also, the thing that bothered me the most is after it's all over, you need to have effective change. Because if mom and dad are involved and the kids are involved, you end up removing a child from a home. He's in a traumatic mess. You don't necessarily need to do that, but what you put the family through is unbelievable. But a year or two later, this may restart again. And that's the biggest fear. Is I don't know how much we are involved in that, but we need to be way involved, because what it costs your county over a lifetime is unbelievable. The other, and I'm not going much more in depth on that, but it was really interesting when they said that Marathon County's caseload doubled last year. I'm not going to put Chuck on the spot and say what's happened here, and I'm not going to put Sheriff Wills on the spot and ask him what about the drug scene. But I do know this is an expensive mess coming at us. The other thing that I really got hung up on, and I'm not going to take you forever here, was our water quality. Waupaca County has some of the best water quality, and I know Brian Wright quite well, and I pick at him a little bit, but there was a guy from Oconto County that was talking in depth about a group that's trying to reopen a mine, which is by Marinette Menominee, and it's the bottom of the mine where the sulfur is, and when you open that mine up and water gets in it, you create sulfuric acid. And so what that does to wells in the area is devastating, and it's companies out of this country with investors that are into that stuff, trying to bring back old mines. But when I asked a couple questions and I looked at everything, and on the maps, Waupaca County has some of the best water in the state of Wisconsin. We've got to make sure we maintain that. And it talked about the different areas, what causes poor water quality, and I'm not blaming farmers or ranchers, but 90% of it comes from ag runoff, about 7% from septics. But what they talked about in length is if you can get more ranchers or farmers to do more grazing, because that grass absorbs more of the runoff stuff, and so it doesn't get in the wells. That's great. And I know we're on target here, but those are two things we need to be on top of, because those things could affect us big time. I want good water. So do you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair McClellan. Okay, in interest of time, we'll go on to appointments. We need to reappoint Michelle Frola to the Owls Board for a 3-year term. Do we have a motion? Mr. Nygaard?
Move to approve.
Mr. Nygaard moves to approve. Supervisor Lair?
Second.
And Supervisor Lair seconds the motion. Any questions? Vote, please.
Last chance to vote. The motion carries 23-0. Oh, excuse my typo. That should be reappoint Solid Waste Board, not Sold. You don't see it until you're in the middle of here, right? You want me to read that?
Yes.
Okay. Reappoint the Solid Waste Board citizen members to a term through 4/20 of 2022. Jeff Dyer, Marianne Schneider, Nancy Keppen, and Ken Van Dyke.
Supervisor Terry Murphy?
Yep, I'll make that motion to approve.
There is a motion by Supervisor Terry Murphy for approval. Supervisor Zog?
I will second that appointments.
And a second by Supervisor Zog. Discussion? Questions? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. The motion carries 23-0. Last appointment is to appoint Dave Moore to the Land and Water Conservation Committee and Committee on Aging.
Supervisor Nygaard?
Move to approve.
There's a motion by Supervisor Nygaard for the approval. Supervisor Pullman?
I would second that motion.
And a second by Supervisor Pullman. Any discussion? Please vote.
Last chance to vote. The motion carries 22-0 with 1 abstained.
Okay, announcements and correspondence. Speaks for itself. Of course, the reminder is our next board meeting is a public hearing on November 12th at 9 a.m. And the treats today are on Supervisor Hendrick. I hope he's feeling better. He's feeling kind of tough for a while, but I think he's getting better. Have you heard, Dennis? Okay. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Lair?
So moved.
Motion by Supervisor Lair and Supervisor Golding.
I second it.
And a second by Supervisor Golding. We are adjourned. Thank you. Great meeting.